Have you ever poured your heart into someone only to feel invisible in return? Felt the sting of loving deeply while they treated you like nothing? You are not alone. This is a story as old as human connection itself, a story that carries a hidden lesson, if you choose to see it. When we love with intensity, we often forget that love is a mirror, not a guarantee. The way someone treats us is rarely about our value. It's a reflection of their own shadows, insecurities, and unhealed wounds. They may be blind to your devotion because they are trapped in their own fear of intimacy or vulnerability. It's painful, undeniably so. You give, they withhold. You show care, they ignore. And yet, in this imbalance, there is a lesson. Your love is a gift, not a currency to be earned. Their inability to recognize it is a revelation, not of your shortcomings, but of their limitations. We often mistake neglect for rejection of self, but it is actually a call to awaken, to see that our deepest validation must come from within. When you understand this, you stop chasing empty recognition. You stop giving your precious energy to those who cannot honor it. And in that moment, you reclaim yourself. This is also where detachment comes in, not as an act of bitterness, but as an act of liberation. Loving someone deeply does not bind you to their inability to love back. True love for yourself and others flows freely, without expectation, and without losing your own sense of worth. Remember this: the people who could not see your love are teaching you one of life's hardest lessons, the difference between love and attachment, between giving yourself and expecting someone else to hold your heart. Love is one of the most powerful forces a human being can experience. It has the capacity to transform us, to inspire us, and to reveal dimensions of ourselves we never knew existed. Yet, there is a paradox in love that few are prepared to face. The depth of our love is often unseen by those we give it to. We can love with every fiber of our being, pouring our heart, our time, and our energy into someone, and still feel invisible in return. This is not because our love is insufficient, but because love is rarely received in the same way it is given. When you love deeply, you invest yourself completely. You notice the smallest details about the other person, their moods, their needs, their dreams, and their fears. You remember the things they forget. You celebrate their victories even when they don't notice your support, and you carry their burdens as if they were your own. This level of devotion is rare, and yet it often goes unnoticed. Many people are not capable of perceiving such profound care. They are distracted by their own fears, insecurities, and expectations. Your love, no matter how powerful, may float like an invisible current in the air, surrounding them without them ever realizing it. The tragedy of unseen love is that it can make you question your worth. You might ask yourself, am I not enough? Did I give too much? Was my love meaningless? These are natural responses when our efforts are unacknowledged. But the truth is that the value of your love does not depend on recognition. Love, in its purest form, is an act of giving, not of receiving. Its authenticity is measured not by the response it elicits, but by the sincerity of your intention and the fullness of your heart in offering it. People who cannot recognize or appreciate deep love often operate from a place of limitation. Their hearts may be closed, their past wounds unresolved, or their ability to connect shallow. They may crave love but fail to perceive it when it appears before them. They may be conditioned to expect love in a certain form, so the way you express yours does not match their expectations. This mismatch does not diminish the truth of your emotions. It only highlights the complexity of human connection and the reality that not everyone is ready or capable of receiving the love they are given. Loving deeply also means embracing vulnerability. You expose your heart, you risk rejection, and you open yourself to the possibility of disappointment. Yet, it is in this vulnerability that the true strength of your love lies. To love deeply, even when unseen, is an act of courage. It is a declaration of your capacity to feel, to empathize, and to commit fully, even without assurance of reciprocity. Your love becomes a reflection of your character, your depth, and your humanity. Furthermore, unseen love teaches lessons that visible love cannot. It teaches patience, compassion, and resilience. It teaches you to value yourself independently of others' approval. It forces you to confront the uncomfortable reality that your happiness cannot be fully anchored in someone else's perception or validation. Instead, it invites you to discover the source of love within yourself, to recognize your own worth, and to cultivate a self-reliance that transforms vulnerability into empowerment. There is also a subtle beauty in love that is not seen. Its impact is not always immediate, and its influence is not always acknowledged. Sometimes the love you give creates ripples in ways you cannot perceive. Perhaps it plants seeds of understanding, healing, or growth in another person, even if they never express gratitude. Perhaps it shapes your own soul, teaching you about patience, generosity, and the richness of human emotion. In this way, unseen love is never wasted. It exists as a testament to the depth of your heart, a quiet proof that your capacity for care is limitless and that your emotional courage is unwavering. Loving without recognition challenges the ego because the ego seeks reward, acknowledgement, and validation. When your love is unseen, you are forced to confront the essence of why you love. Is it for approval, or is it for the sheer act of giving? To persist in loving despite invisibility is to transcend ego-driven motives. It becomes a pure expression of your inner being, a manifestation of the truest part of yourself, one that does not bend to the need for external affirmation. Human relationships are mirrors, reflecting not only who we are, but also the hidden dimensions of those we encounter. Often, when someone treats us poorly or fails to recognize the love we offer, it is not a judgment of our worth, but a reflection of their own inner shadows. These shadows are the unhealed parts of themselves, fears, insecurities, and unresolved pain that they project outward, sometimes unconsciously, onto the people they interact with. Understanding this principle transforms the way we perceive rejection, cruelty, and neglect, and allows us to approach our connections with greater clarity and compassion. Shadows exist in everyone. They are the fragments of our psyche we refuse to acknowledge, the uncomfortable truths we hide from the world and sometimes from ourselves. When people encounter someone who embodies the qualities they have repressed, such as emotional openness, confidence, or integrity, they often respond defensively. They may belittle, dismiss, or undervalue the other person as a way to protect themselves from confronting what they fear within. When you experience this, it can feel personal, as if their actions are a direct statement about your character. Yet in reality, their behavior reveals more about their inner struggles than it does about your value. This projection is a fundamental aspect of human interaction. When someone reacts with judgment, criticism, or indifference, it is often a mirror reflecting aspects of themselves they are not willing or able to face. They may carry unresolved anger, shame, or trauma. And in seeing your qualities, the very traits they wish they could embody, they unconsciously attack, diminish, or avoid them. This is not an excuse for mistreatment, but an explanation that shifts the lens from blame to understanding. Recognizing this allows you to disengage from the emotional weight of their actions, realizing that their inability to honor you is rooted in their internal conflicts. Reflection of others' shadows also teaches us boundaries. When we grasp that the way people treat us is often a reflection of their own hidden wounds, we begin to see the importance of discerning where our responsibility ends and theirs begins. You are not responsible for healing the insecurities of others, nor should your self-worth be contingent on their recognition. Their shadows are theirs to confront, and your role is to protect your own light while acknowledging the dynamics at play. By maintaining this clarity, you avoid absorbing the negativity projected onto you, and you create space for healthier, more authentic connections. The mirror of another's shadow can also serve as a guide for self-awareness. When someone reacts strongly to a part of you, it may reveal hidden patterns within yourself that need attention. Perhaps you are drawn to people who mirror certain unresolved dynamics, or perhaps their reactions trigger old wounds you have yet to fully process. By observing these interactions with mindful detachment, you gain insight not only into their inner world, but into your own growth journey. The shadows of others become catalysts for self-reflection, revealing where healing, patience, and self-compassion are required. Understanding this principle brings a profound sense of liberation. No longer are you a victim of others' behavior. Instead, you are an observer of the interplay between your light and their darkness. You recognize that the rejection, indifference, or cruelty you face is rarely about you personally. It is about the limits, fears, and projections of those who cannot yet integrate the depths of their own emotional experience. This awareness shifts power back into your hands, allowing you to respond with wisdom rather than reactivity, and with compassion rather than resentment. Moreover, reflection of others' shadows teaches empathy in its deepest form. When you see someone acting out of fear, insecurity, or unhealed pain, you can approach the situation with a sense of understanding rather than anger. Empathy does not mean tolerating abuse or compromising your boundaries. It means recognizing that every harmful action originates in the struggle of the human psyche. When you grasp this, interactions that once felt purely painful become opportunities for insight, for discernment, and for cultivating resilience. At the heart of this understanding is a profound truth. The world is filled with people carrying unseen burdens. The way they treat us is often a distorted projection of these burdens, and by recognizing it, we free ourselves from taking their behavior personally. This awareness allows us to navigate relationships with greater clarity, to protect our energy, and to maintain a sense of equanimity even in the face of indifference, judgment, or mistreatment. Self-worth is one of the most essential yet overlooked aspects of the human experience. It is the foundation upon which we build our confidence, our relationships, and our ability to navigate life's challenges. Yet, for many, self-worth is entangled with external validation, approval from others, recognition for our efforts, or reciprocation of our love. When we experience neglect, betrayal, or indifference despite giving our best, it often shakes the core of our sense of value. This is not a reflection of who we are, but an opportunity to learn profound lessons about the true nature of self-worth. The first lesson is that self-worth is internal, not external. The world may fail to recognize your efforts, your kindness, or your devotion, but your value does not depend on their acknowledgement. Too often, we allow the reactions of others to define how we perceive ourselves, measuring our worth by the attention we receive or the validation we are offered. True self-worth, however, is an unwavering understanding of our own intrinsic value, a recognition that we are enough simply by existing, independent of approval, reward, or recognition. Experiences of being undervalued teach us to look inward rather than outward. When someone treats us poorly despite our love, it is a mirror that reflects the gaps in our own self-perception. We learn to confront the areas where we may rely too heavily on external affirmation, to cultivate a sense of identity and confidence rooted in our own awareness. This process is not easy. It requires honesty, courage, and introspection, but it is the only path to a self-respect that is unshakable, resilient, and authentic. Another essential lesson in self-worth is recognizing boundaries. Often, we give freely and endlessly because we equate our value with our usefulness or our ability to please others. Being treated poorly despite this devotion is a lesson in discerning where our energy belongs. It is a reminder that self-worth is not measured by sacrifice, obedience, or approval, but by the respect we afford ourselves in our choices. Establishing boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It is an acknowledgement that our time, love, and energy are precious, and they deserve to be reciprocated by those capable of honoring them. Self-worth also teaches resilience in the face of rejection or indifference. Life inevitably presents situations where our efforts go unnoticed, where our love is unacknowledged, or where our talents are undervalued. These moments, while painful, are crucial in shaping the understanding that our value remains intact regardless of external circumstances. Every experience of being overlooked becomes a teacher, encouraging us to stand firm in our convictions, to trust our instincts, and to nurture our self-esteem from within. Additionally, lessons in self-worth involve understanding the difference between love and attachment. When we attach our sense of worth to someone else's recognition, we set ourselves up for disappointment. True self-worth allows us to give freely without losing ourselves, to love deeply without requiring reciprocity, and to act with integrity even when unseen. This separation between attachment and self-value is transformative, teaching us to approach relationships from a place of wholeness rather than dependence, and to maintain dignity even in the face of neglect. Self-worth is further reinforced by embracing our individuality. When others fail to appreciate us, it often reflects societal pressures, norms, or their personal limitations. Their inability to recognize your value does not diminish the uniqueness of your gifts, perspectives, and experiences. Learning to honor your individuality, to celebrate your achievements, and to embrace your flaws is a critical step in cultivating a robust sense of self-worth. It allows you to remain steadfast in your authenticity, regardless of who affirms it or who does not. Ultimately, lessons in self-worth are lessons in empowerment. They teach us to stop seeking permission from others to exist fully, and to stop measuring our value by the reactions we elicit. They encourage us to invest in ourselves, to nurture our growth, and to protect our hearts from unnecessary compromise. Each experience of being treated poorly despite our best efforts becomes an invitation to strengthen our self-perception, to reinforce our confidence, and to cultivate a sense of inner abundance that is impervious to the judgments or indifference of the world. Detachment without hatred is one of the most difficult, yet profoundly liberating lessons in human relationships. It requires a maturity of mind and heart to release someone from our expectations, our emotional dependence, and our desire for reciprocity, while maintaining compassion and understanding for their limitations. Too often, when someone treats us poorly, our instinct is to respond with anger, resentment, or bitterness. Yet, true emotional liberation comes not from harboring these negative feelings, but from learning to detach without letting hatred take root within us. At the heart of detachment without hatred is understanding the distinction between the person and their actions. Every human being is a complex mixture of light and shadow, capable of love and error, kindness and indifference. When someone fails to recognize our love or treats us poorly, it is easy to conflate their behavior with their essence. Detachment requires the ability to see their actions as a reflection of their own struggles, limitations, and unhealed wounds, rather than a judgment of our value or worth. By separating the individual from their behavior, we create the mental and emotional space needed to release attachment without condemning them entirely. Detachment is not indifference. It does not mean shutting down your heart or avoiding the lessons embedded in the relationship. Rather, it is a conscious choice to protect your energy, to maintain your boundaries, and to refuse to be defined by someone else's inability to meet you fully. It involves acknowledging the pain caused by neglect, betrayal, or disregard, while refusing to let that pain transform into resentment. This process is delicate because it requires both self-awareness and self-compassion, a recognition that holding on to anger or hatred harms us far more than it harms the other person. One of the key components of detachment without hatred is acceptance. Acceptance is not resignation, and it does not mean condoning mistreatment. Instead, it is the recognition that some people are not capable of giving us what we need, and that clinging to them in expectation of change only prolongs our suffering. Acceptance frees us from the illusion that our love or effort will transform them, allowing us to redirect our attention and energy toward ourselves, our growth, and those who are capable of reciprocating our care. This form of detachment also teaches resilience. When we release someone without hatred, we strengthen our emotional stability. We learn that our happiness, self-respect, and sense of completeness are not contingent on external validation. Each act of letting go becomes a reinforcement of our inner strength, a declaration that we will not compromise our peace for the sake of another's inability to appreciate or nurture our love. Detachment becomes a skill, a discipline of the heart that allows us to navigate life with clarity, courage, and dignity. Moreover, detachment without hatred allows space for empathy and understanding. By recognizing that others act from their shadows, their fears, or their unhealed wounds, we cultivate compassion for their human imperfections. This does not excuse their behavior, but it transforms our response from reactive anger to thoughtful discernment. We learn to observe without judgment, to care without sacrificing our boundaries, and to respond with wisdom rather than impulse. The absence of hatred does not make us weak, it makes us emotionally intelligent and spiritually mature. Practicing detachment without hatred also teaches us about the impermanence of relationships and the evolving nature of human connection. Not every person is meant to stay in our lives, and not every bond is meant to endure. Some connections exist to teach lessons, to illuminate our own strengths and weaknesses, or to guide us toward a more authentic understanding of ourselves. By detaching gracefully, without bitterness, we honor the value of these experiences without allowing them to weigh down our spirit or diminish our capacity to love in the future. At its core, detachment without hatred is an act of self-respect. It is the recognition that your heart is too precious to be trapped in cycles of anger, resentment, or unmet expectation. It is the ability to release someone who cannot meet you where you are, while preserving your dignity, your emotional equilibrium, and your capacity for love. It is an inner liberation that transforms pain into wisdom, suffering into strength, and separation into clarity. The path to inner freedom is not a physical journey, but a profound psychological and emotional one. It is the process of liberating yourself from the chains of expectation, resentment, attachment, and the need for external validation. Many of us live our lives tethered to the opinions, behaviors, and approval of others, believing that our worth, happiness, or peace is contingent upon how we are treated. The truth, however, is that true freedom begins within. It arises when we reclaim ownership of our emotional world, when we stop surrendering our power to those who cannot or will not honor it. Inner freedom starts with self-awareness. To be free, we must first understand the forces that bind us: fear, anger, resentment, attachment, and unhealed wounds. Often, we are not conscious of how much of our energy is spent reacting to the actions of others, replaying moments of neglect or betrayal, and seeking validation that may never come. By observing these patterns without judgment, we begin to recognize the ways in which we have allowed external circumstances to dictate our inner state. Self-awareness is the first key step, because we cannot release what we do not first acknowledge. Acceptance is the next critical element. Inner freedom requires accepting reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. It is the recognition that some people are incapable of reciprocating our love, that some experiences cannot be changed, and that some situations are beyond our control. Acceptance does not mean passivity or surrender. It is an acknowledgement of truth that allows us to stop resisting, stop fighting what cannot be altered, and stop pouring energy into illusions of control. Through acceptance, the mind becomes calm, the heart less burdened, and the spirit begins to feel the first taste of liberation. Another vital aspect of inner freedom is the release of attachment. Attachment is not simply a matter of love or desire. It is the mental and emotional habit of linking our happiness, identity, or security to someone or something external. We cling to people, outcomes, and circumstances, hoping they will provide a sense of completeness that can only originate within. The path to freedom teaches us that detachment is not rejection or indifference. It is the conscious decision to separate our sense of worth and peace from external validation. Detachment allows us to engage fully with life without being enslaved by expectations or fears. Self-forgiveness and self-compassion are also essential on this journey. Inner freedom cannot flourish when the mind is weighed down by guilt, shame, or self-blame. Many of us carry regrets from past actions or relationships, replaying mistakes over and over in a way that erodes our peace. To walk the path of freedom, we must forgive ourselves for our perceived failures, honor our efforts, and cultivate a gentle, compassionate relationship with our own soul. By doing so, we release the internal critic that keeps us trapped in cycles of doubt, insecurity, and stagnation. Equally important is the cultivation of resilience and emotional sovereignty. Life will inevitably bring challenges, disappointments, and people who fail to honor us. Inner freedom is not about avoiding these experiences. It is about developing the capacity to remain grounded, centered, and intact despite them. It is the ability to respond to adversity with wisdom instead of reactivity, to protect your energy without resentment, and to maintain clarity even in the midst of emotional storms. Emotional sovereignty is a hallmark of those who have begun to walk the path of true liberation. Finally, inner freedom is intimately connected with authenticity. When we free ourselves from the need for approval, fear of judgment, and external constraints, we allow our truest selves to emerge. We begin to live in alignment with our values, desires, and inner truth, rather than bending to the expectations of others. This authenticity is not only a personal victory, it is a magnetic force, drawing into our lives people, opportunities, and experiences that resonate with our genuine nature. It is a life lived consciously, intentionally, and courageously. The path to inner freedom is not linear, and it is rarely easy. It demands introspection, courage, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. It asks us to release attachment, forgive, detach, and embrace self-worth fully. It is a journey of transformation, one that shifts the source of happiness, peace, and validation from the outside world to within, allowing us to navigate life with a sense of empowerment, clarity, and unshakable equilibrium.